Hi all, and welcome to episode 9 of the Leading Safely podcast. We've had quite a few topic requests come through, which has been fantastic. So today we have a great practical episode for you that was requested by Dale, and that is positive field interactions. In this episode, I'm not going to quote literature or huge studies involving numerous subjects. Instead today, what you will hear is all based on experience. To begin with, let's define what we mean by positive field interactions. Generally speaking, field interactions are any of those interactions you might have with workers on site, out of the office, in a standard operational working environment. The interactions I'm referring to are normally some sort of conversation, chat, meeting, etc. between a leader or safety professional and most times a frontline employee such as an operator. That's the interaction part done. They do not necessarily have to be safety related. However, for the purposes of this podcast, we will say they are. You can of course use what you're about to learn for any in-field interaction. For what makes it positive, let's be real. A positive interaction is one where you've been able to interact with the worker without them mouthing off to you, telling you to get lost or go home. You get the idea. Taking this one step further, to truly be positive, the interaction has gone well enough that there was some sort of critical thought occurrence. It could have been about risk management or hazard awareness or just the job at hand. But the discussion was not just a superficial one. So you weren't sworn at and there was critical thought. Therefore, you've had a positive interaction. Now that we know exactly what a positive field interaction is, let's get into the nitty-gritty and talk about how to go about ensuring you have these. To start with, first impressions count, and that very first moment that a worker lays eyes on you creates a judgment. It's almost like love at first sight, or in this instance, possibly disrespect at first sight, and it really all depends on what you look like. It's not, did you do your hair today, or did you wear your best makeup? No. This is more, are you wearing the correct PPE for that operational area? Are you dressed like the worker? Or are you dressed in a $200 pair of skinny jeans, a business shirt, pointy-toe brown shoes, Ray-Ban aviators, and a high-vis vest that you borrowed from the office? If you are entering an operational work area, take the time to find out what the required mandatory PPE is for the workers in that work area and wear it appropriately. If gloves are compulsory, get the correct type of gloves. If the workers wear steel-cap shoes, wear steel-cap shoes. If the workers are required to wear safety glasses, then you wear safety glasses. To gain that initial respect, you do not want to look different. You want to look like you cared enough to do the right thing. Another tip to note here is, and this is one of my pet hates, for those of you that know me personally, you will know I will constantly talk about this all the time. Under no circumstances should you be carrying a clipboard or a notebook into your field interaction. I don't care how many silly inspections or checklists you're required to complete while you're out on your field walk. One way to get a worker offside almost instantly is to look like you're about to do some sort of audit or check on them. So ditch the checklist document and clipboards. If you do have to complete some sort of documentation, I suggest you get to know the content of the inspection sheet or observation prior to going out on your walk. Observe what you can and then come back to the office and complete the documentation later. If you forget bits and pieces, go out and do another walk and another one until you have all the content you need to complete that documentation. Extra walks on site or in the field should be seen as positive, as it gives you further opportunity to gain visibility and interact with the workers. Whatever you do, do not go up to a worker with your clipboard out and start doing a tick and flick in front of them. And do not think that telling the worker that you're required to complete the tick and flick will help the worker think more of you. They won't. Next is that initial introduction with the worker. So you dress for the part and you're out on site without your clipboard. If you're lucky enough to be out with others who know all the workers, that's great news for you, as you can stress a little less. However, if you are out on your own or with others who don't know the workers, you're going to have to take it back old school and do the introductions yourself. Do not attempt to do this midway through the worker completing some sort of critical or high-risk task. And don't enter into any operational work area unless you have been provided with the relevant authorization or approval to do so. It does not matter how high up in an organisation you are are not exempt from requiring authorization or approval. In fact, gaining the appropriate authorization works in your favour and shows you that not only did you know the process, but you respect it as well. And workers will see this as leading by example. Wait for the worker to see you and acknowledge your presence. Eventually, they will gauge that you were there to see them. If they hadn't been told previously, they will come down or they will come out to see you. Then, the shining light is on you. Don't get nervous. The person in front of you is just like you, another person. So introduce yourself with a nice handshake. I say nice here because I cannot tell you how many times I've shaken hands with someone who wants to break every tiny bone in my hand. Regardless of gender, shaking hands with another worker or employee in this context is not the time to demonstrate that you've been working out your biceps or want to be the dominant species. When someone does this to me now, I call them out on it. I'll say, "Lovely to meet you. Geez, that's a strong handshake," and that normally is enough to take someone aback. So no big, strong person shake. Just a regular, firm, warm handshake, and obviously tell them your name. Then ask for theirs. From there, you will want to provide some context for the worker so they understand why some random person is now out watching them work. Give them the real, down-to-earth explanation, not the corporate strategy, not the key deliverables answer. So, your introduction may go something like this. "Hi mate, how's it going?" "Oh, that's good to hear. I'm Georgina, one of the new safety advisors out on site. What's your name?" "Thanks, John. I'm just out this morning doing my walk around. You know, the standard stuff, part of the job. And thought you looked like a smart guy operating this digger, so thought I'd pop over and say hi." As you can tell in that little intro, I made a comment about the operator being smart to break the ice. You will want to do something similar. Talk about the weather, a footy game from the night before, their amazing operating abilities, anything really that would get the worker to smile and let their guard down. I find at this point, even if the worker saw me coming and had it in their head that they were going to be staunch towards me, if I can get them laughing or even just smiling, then it throws their grumpiness off guard. It's also going to help you build rapport for any further interactions you might have with that worker. For example, if they've said they barracked for a particular football team, the next time you see that worker on site, you could ask how that team is going. If you learned they had children, you could ask how their kids are. Anything you learn is a key to a door that will help you with that worker. Most of the people I've worked with would tell you that they met me via a bottle of Coke and a Mars bar, or a sausage roll, or a chocolate muffin, or something similar. Normally, if I'm site-based, I'll spend a little of my own money to buy enough chocolate bars to share with the people I'm going to be interacting with. I have found rocking up with a Coke and a Mars bar and introducing myself that way makes me memorable and drops workers' guards, and even their attitudes if they'd planned on having one. Often I will see someone who's against safety in general come and take a Coke or a chocolate, and then I use the chocolate they picked as my icebreaker. Call it bribery, call it being nice. It is what it is, and for me, it works. After the little intro, I'll then head into the crux of the interaction, and this really depends on the reason for you being there. If I'm just out and about getting to know employees and building rapport with them, then normally I will ask them what's on their agenda for the day or what jobs they have to complete. I might say, "So, have you got on a full-on day today? Looks like there's a few benches to be done." So you're actually asking something generally related to their tasks or work for the day that will get them chatting to you about what they have to do ahead. From there, the opportunities for questions can go anywhere you want them to. If they're an operator of any bit of plant or equipment, even if you're an expert in that bit of plant and equipment, ask them about it. I'll say something like, "I've never operated a jumbo before, is it hard to do?" Or, "What's it like being on the production line? It looks like it'd be really super fast paced." These may seem like dumb, super simple questions, but this is the type of thing that allows the worker to show you what they know and what their skills are. It also gets them talking. These interactions will help you achieve your relevant time in the field, are really about the workers, and they provide an excellent consultation opportunity for the worker to raise any relevant issues they might have with their work activities or work environment. So you'll want to have open-ended questions that allow them to speak freely. Now, it's important to note that time here is critical. Usually, if this is my first time interacting with someone, I won't head down the safety line at all. The conversation will remain light and fluffy and will be superficial. There is that introduction and I will learn about what they do, what they like, and then that's it. I would thank them for their time, then find my next victim. Person to interact with. Normally, I will not take the conversation down the safety line on my very first meeting with you unless you're doing something life-threatening or something that could potentially injure yourself or others. So once you've done the ice breaking though, and you're ready for the next step, you should ask some curiosity questions. But if you do ask these types of questions, you have to be prepared for the answers because you might not like what they tell you, and you should also be prepared for actions to arise from those answers. Some questions you could ask are, what do you like about driving a train? Or, what don't you like about working in the workshop? Is there anything you've seen that really gets on your nerves or something that just irritates you? Have you had any close calls or near misses? Why do you think that happened or didn't happen? Is there anything to do with what you're doing right now that you think the company could improve? Is there anything with what you're doing right now that has the potential to kill or injure you? What's in place to prevent that from happening? Do you think it's effective? Could we do more? As I said, these are curiosity questions, and the answers could be anything from this is SHIT to actually there is this fault in the cab which the guys have fixed, however it just keeps on coming back. Or even my supervisor is a beep who keeps making us do stuff we're not comfortable doing. Either way, once you have all the answers, you'll want to ensure you take note in your head or on your phone, if you're allowed, of any actions that need to be followed up on. Then you will be thanking that worker for their time and giving them a time frame on when you will get some feedback back to them from the discussion. You physically do not need to go and search out the employee to provide that feedback, but you will want to get it back to them via a supervisor, a health and safety rep, etc. It's critical that you do follow up though, so don't forget about this part in the process. Then, once you have all this information, you'll come back to the office and complete that documentation you needed to start, and you'll do that actionable process. Try to remember the fun stuff you learned about the worker and use that when you do see them around on site. It will help you to keep building that rapport with them and will make it easier for you to have those critical safety discussions when an incident does occur. The other thing to note here is you do not want to be seen as a policeman when you walk around on site. The last thing that I want to see in the field is workers noticing that I'm coming towards them, so they start putting on their safety glasses, their hard hats, etc. PPE is the last line of defence in the hierarchy of control, and for me, this is the least of my worries when I'm walking around on site or in the field. However, if when I interact with you, you're decent and respectable and are able to critically think about risk and protecting your own health and safety, then I feel like I've done my job. Also important to note here, as per earlier conversations on robust discussions and resilience, not every in-field interaction is going to go well. Not every worker is going to welcome you with open arms and tell you all their deepest, darkest safety concerns. Some of them will make you work for it, and some of them are just downright rude and disrespectful. You will need to be able to shrug that off and not hold it against those individuals. So if you're not into giving away chocolates, perhaps keep that stash for yourself for when these interactions don't go according to plan. Earlier this year, I worked for a construction site when mask restrictions were still in place and even our outside workers were required to have them on. Part of my role, which I certainly did hate, was to police the mask wearing unless social distancing was happening. So I walked around on site one morning and came across a group of concreters, knee-deep in concreting. There was about 8 of them and none of them had a mask on. They were also contractors, so this was the first time I would be interacting with them. However, I had seen them multiple times on site, just had not interacted with them. This also meant I did not have the luxury of niceties like Mars bars or muffins. They see me coming and there's this hush amongst them. So I said, "Hey guys, how's it going?" I got a few mumbles, but I could tell this was not going to go according to plan. I continued, "You guys know I work in the safety team, right?" More grumbles. I'm like, "Unfortunately, you understand you all have to abide by the mask requirements, hey? Which means all of you are going to need to put them back on." They all break out into grumbles like high school kids. "This is effed, what a crock of, this is so BS." I felt like I was a teacher all over again. I took a breath and said, I know that it's not what anyone wants to do. I can see you're all working hard. It's not my rule. It's not even a site rule. It's a Queensland Health one, which means we all need to abide by it. They kept grumbling, but they started to put their masks on. I thanked them, and as I left, I could still hear them grumbling as I was walking away, cursing me under their breath. On my way back to the office, I ran into their supervisor. I told him about my interaction with the guys, and he wanted to know the names of those individuals that gave me lip. He was disappointed to learn that it was the whole entire crew. However, I advised that they did comply, so there was no harm done, and I didn't see this interaction as a bad one. I've just included it here so that you can see sometimes it's not all going to be roses and teddy bears. Right, so let's recap to ensure you have positive in-field interactions. Do dress as per the requirements of the roles you will be interacting with. Don't stand out from the crowd with your RM Williams boots in an operational work area. Do take the time to understand what it is you want to gain from that interaction. Don't carry a clipboard or a notebook. Do introduce yourself and shake hands with the worker. Don't try and exert dominance with your handshake. Do say something that breaks the ice. Don't go straight into the safety stuff. Do take your time to listen and hear what is being said. And don't act as if you're time restricted, could not care less, or won't action or follow up what is being said. Do follow up once you're back in the office. And don't take it personally if the worker is not your favourite fan and wishes bad things to happen to you. So there you have it, folks. I hope that you've gained something from this episode that will assist you with having positive in-field interactions. Remember, building rapport, gaining trust and respect from the workers is key to being able to gain information and to leverage positive health and safety change. Don't forget, like Dale, you too can request I speak about a topic of your choice. So comment on LinkedIn or contact me via my website, www.leadingsafely.com.au. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe.